Welcome to the Fire Yourself show, where we explore what it takes to exit the day-to-day operations that's working in your business to working on your business and building a more passively owned business. And if you haven't met me before, you might ask, well, what gives this guy the right to be talking about this stuff? I've spent over 35 years working with business owners doing exactly that, helping them get out of the day-to-day operations, the day-to-day grind, and working on their business. Which brings me to the first principle. It's impossible, almost impossible, to work in your business and actually build a business that gives you a quality lifestyle, a business that you can sell for really good money when you're ready to sell. And there's a reason for that, and that's just because there's only one of you. And when there's only one of you and you're working in your business, you are a required resource to run that business. And the moment that you're a required resource, well, you've got a job to do all the time. And that means that you don't have personal freedom. And so many business owners do that. They build their business around them as the central figure. As I said, they are a resource in their business. So conceptually, it's really good to start to grab another perspective of point of view. And I received this many years ago when I actually first started this work, working with business owners, helping them build them out of their businesses from my mentors. Now, my mentors were incredible. They were the first people that I ever met, and I grew up around business, but they were the first people that I ever met that had businesses running completely independently from them. And they enjoyed surfing and skiing and sailing more than working. And I learned a lot from them. And I especially learned this core concept of not being a resource, but controlling resources. And resources are IP, capital, strategy, people. And as a controller of a resource, you're actually able to set up a business that runs independently of you because you're not a resource required in the day-to-day running of that business. Now, for most people, that's very foreign thinking. And why is it foreign thinking? Well, it's foreign thinking because if you come from the working, the middle, or the professional classes trying to be a doctor or a lawyer, you're actually trained as a resource in someone else's money-making endeavor. And that's what the education system does. It creates resources for those with more power. And I'm not bagging education here, but it is what it is. I've worked, as I said before, with business owners, building them out of the day-to-day running for 35 years. And I can tell you that they are all impacted by education systems that have turned them into resources. So you can have the best strategies in the world for building yourself out of the business, but if your unconscious is primed to be a resource in your business, that's what you'll actually naturally gravitate towards. So coming back to the school system, the sort of unconscious or unspoken belief system behind your education was that you need to go and increase your skills because you're going to have to trade those skills on an hourly basis to someone else. So that's the kind of unconscious programming you're bringing into business. And you'll see why this matters in a moment. It matters in a huge way. Typically, by the way, if someone is taking time off from their business, they'll feel guilty. And this is an example of that type of unconscious training. When you build a business to run independently, you don't want to feel guilty when you're not working. And we'll be talking about that in a second. So if we want to move out from working in the business to on the business, coming back to that first point, it's really hard to do both. Now, why is it hard to do both? Well, imagine a conductor. First of all, a conductor is a controller of resources, not a resource. So they're not trying to play the bass, the violin, or the fiddle. What they're doing is they're calling in the fiddle player now, the violin player now, the bass section now. I'm now bringing the brass section in. So this is what someone that's working on their business should be doing. And you'll see why this is important in a second. Control of resources, not a resource. So the moment that you're a resource, well, you're coming into that with job think. You've got jobs to do. And jobs are just one aspect of a business. Jobs are usually involved with fulfilling the vision, which we'll get to in a second. But jobs take a lot of time. So if you're doing jobs, the more jobs that you have to do over a wider playing field, the more stressed you are, the less effective you are, and the more you're just doing the things in the business. So you don't have time to work on your business. But working on your business is what creates a system that runs independently of you so that you don't have to be a resource in it. So you can see the issues and challenge here. This is why people get stuck working in their business for years. That unconscious dynamic there, which is to be a resource. And secondly, to be a resource and have all those jobs means you've only got so much time, and you're usually too burnt out to get to this next stage, which is working on your business effectively. So just think of the conductor, as I said. You can't be the conductor of the orchestra and you are playing the instruments at the same time. You've got to choose. Now, when we work with clients, we take them through a process to get them out of the day-to-day activity so they are like the conductor. In fact, we call it the conductor stage. Conductor stage is that we're no longer a resource in the business. We're actually controlling resources like the conductor. Now we can really increase the value of that business so that when we get to sell it, we're actually selling a business, because no one wants to buy a business that gives them a job. Terrible. I mean, I could bang on about this for ages. There's actually no positive, wonderful thing about working in your business. In fact, it's just a mistake. And again, another thing that contributes to that mistake, and I better clarify this, like, people love what they do. I love what I do as well. The challenge is that when you've come from that schooling system I talked about before, which teaches you to be a resource, you are, you've got this whole concept that I've got to work to get paid, and you'll see that's not true in a second. And also you may have trained to be an electrician or a hairstylist or a watchmaker. So what you do when you come into business is you tend to come into business with this concept of, I am going to do this. My skill is the business. So as I said, you're locked in on the doing level, and no one wants to buy that type of business because they're buying a job, not a business. So there's just nothing great about it. And, you can come in and you can have passion for a while, but you just burn out. I don't think I've ever really seen anyone ever do well in that model that's working in their business. Even if they work their entire life, they're going to work really, really hard. And because they're a roadblock, they're not really building a business to run separately from them. They can't create great scale. They can't create passivity. That's money that comes when you're on holiday or you're asleep. So you can see, I argue strongly against that model. Now, if you love your thing, you can do what I do. You devote a certain percentage of your week to that thing, right? If you love teaching yoga, go teach yoga. If you love being an electrician, take on 3 or 4 jobs. But if you've got to fulfill that part of you, but you need to find a way of moving out of the day-to-day running in your business if you want a good lifestyle, and if you want to be able to have really good money, and you want to be able to build a business that you can sell for a lot of money. So this brings me to something that I perceive to be super important. When I say I perceive, it's really important to understand I have been doing this for 35 years with business owners from all sorts of industries. So this perception comes with some deep insight. So the first thing that we're going to sort of communicate about is describing what I call these 4 hats or 4 roles. So when we talk about these hats are symbolic for this role, okay? So there's 4 hats applying to 4 different roles. Now, interesting enough, these 4 roles apply to your personality and what you do have on the level of your personality and what you don't have on the level of your personality. So what do I mean by that? Well, as an example, some people have a part of their personality that makes it really easy for them to do art, and another person has a skill set that enables them to do maths really, really well. So each individual comes with some basic underlying tendency, gifts, strengths, and weaknesses. And it will apply to this 4 hats principle. So from the 4 hats principle, if you don't have one of these hats, meaning you personally don't embody the character traits or personality traits to do this role easily, you're going to be in trouble. It doesn't mean a disaster, because you need to have experts that have or are strong in these hats or these roles. So we'll be quick with the definition, and then I'll talk a bit about it and around it, because very few people manage to really bring these 4 hats into their business. So the first one is what we call the technician or the operator. And this is pretty easy. The technician or operator is the doer. So if you've been trained as an electrician and you're out there, you're working on a person's house, you're in operator, you're in technician role. You are doing the doing. When you do the invoicing later on, you're in doing. Maybe you come back and have to do a bit of computer work or book work. You are in doing. This is technician or operator role. The next one is creator. And creator is a part that gets excited about creating, like building a website, or, if you're a hairstylist, coming up with a great hairstyle that you are really excited about giving your clients. Creating, or, I know this, I'm an expert in this information, so I'm going to go and build this course out. I can't wait to build this course out because it's going to give so much to the world. I have this idea about improving my watchmaking service, right? You get it. So this is creating. So doing and creating. Now, most business owners are actually strong in those hats for obvious reasons, first of all. So the first obvious reason is, if you're an electrician, you love being an electrician, you just want to go do that. It's just natural for you to do that. And as I said before, you're trained to be a resource, so you sort of think in hard work terms. Like you shouldn't be doing your bookkeeping, right? And many practical reasons for that. There's a whole bunch of admin stuff that you shouldn't be doing, and you're thinking, well, I'm saving myself money by doing it. Well, you're not, because you understood your true hourly rate from the perspective of building the capital value of your business or ongoing income. Your hourly rate is worth way more than what you think you're saving doing some silly little role in your business that should be delegated to someone else, freeing you up. But when you're an operator, that's not how you think, right? You're just doing. I'll do it. I'm going to do it. I can do it. I will do it. I will do it. And then inspiration comes from the creator part of your personality. Goes, I can't. Wow, this will be amazing once I do this in my business. I'm going to make my website look like this. Both of those things aren't particularly tactical. And so those roles are important in the business, right? And obviously, if you've built your business around you, you have to do those roles, so you don't have anyone else at this point. And I don't want to talk too much about these 2 roles, these 2 hats, because for most people watching this, you'll have these hats in spades, meaning they're going to be really dominant in you. So this operator or technician or creator, if that's all you're operating in, if they're the only 2 hats you wear in business, I know for a fact that you've got roadblocks, you've got chaos, you are trapped in your business, you are not effectively growing the value of your business, you don't enjoy any form or very little scalable sort of passive income or continuity income or scalable income. And these are all the kinds of incomes that enable you to have way more freedom and not work all the time. Money just comes in your bank account without you. That's the downside of being the operating technician and the creator, which puts you firmly, by the way, back into being a resource. So the next hat that we look at is the CEO hat. And there's a gentleman who used to say, Keith Cunningham, I think his name, he's a great teacher. Yeah, it is Keith Cunningham. He used to say, when I used to study him years ago, that, you know, business is a thinking sport. Business is a thinking sport. And I just think that's an incredible statement, because now we move into this next hat, which is what we call the CEO hat. The CEO hat is a strategist. It's like the chess player. It thinks, it plans, it really uses brain power to analyze best practices, best strategies. The CEO understands what it takes to grow a business. Now, we can start to separate here, because I think this is important, and I'm just analyzing myself as I do this. My CEO hat has no interest, or doesn't really care for what I do and what I share and what I give. And I'll be clear about this in a second, meaning it's completely divorced from my operator. So my operator loves helping people. It loves serving. It loves educating. It loves being with people and imparting my knowledge and assistance to them. And so from the operator part of me, I get this sort of sense of gratification. And again, just coming back, because we're talking about the 4 hats, I often see a lot of people that are stuck in their business. One of the reasons they're stuck in their business is that they do get this inherent value exchange from doing what they do. If you're style hair, you love styling hair, and you're loving the person at the end of it is going, oh my God, this was just wonderful. Thank you. You've made me feel really good. Of course, you go home, you've got dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin spikes all flooding through you. You're feeling like a good, valid human being. Okay, so I have that element as well. That's from my operator side. But you'll pay the price of the operator side. So you've got to be aware of that. If feeling good is your main reason for being in business, and you get that good feeling by spending time with clients and customers, just be aware that that by default must sacrifice potential income scalability and the potential of building a business that you can sell for a lot of money. Pretty basic stuff. So my CEO has no interest in the helping of the people. It doesn't mean it's mean. It doesn't mean that it's horrible. My operator part does, but my CEO goes, where's the money? What strategy helps us achieve the vision? It's more like the chess player, the strategist. My CEO knows that this part of me knows that I must learn about business, every area of business, that I must upgrade my knowledge. And here we go back to another key principle. The CEO has business now, so understands recruitment, understands people. By the way, if this is freaking you out, just book a chat with me. I will help you. And if I'm not available, because they're often booked out, one of my cohorts will assist you in helping you sort of navigate this territory to get you out of the day-to-day operations. Working with you closely enables us to get a real sense of where you're at, what your own blocks are to exiting a business. And oftentimes they're not just strategic, they're unconscious blocks. In fact, mostly it is. Okay, so coming back to CEO, the CEO is a strategist, learning, upgrading business knowledge. So this is where we start to see a real challenge, because what happens is most people have been trained in the thing, making the watch, being the yoga teacher, being the electrician, being the lawyer. So the unconscious tendency is to do what you know and what you're an expert in. But there are millions of broke experts out there. Just remember that. That's another thing my mentors taught me years ago. Because knowing how to market and sell is way more important than your skill, as an example. And a CEO, the CEO hat knows that. CEO hat knows that you have to master marketing, that you must master sales, and a whole bunch of other things in your business. Complete different skill set. But of course, your operator's going, oh yeah, but I just love, learning about electrical stuff and the best tools that I can use and things like that. This is different. That's operator technician knowledge, where the CEO has business building knowledge. And that gets accrued over time from mistakes, issues, and challenges. By the way, again, if you're interested, and you'll see it down below here, if you're watching on YouTube, or it's up in the first post if you're in any of my groups, and you're watching this, there's a blueprint, a checklist blueprint that actually all our clients in our Fire Yourself program use. I think it's on sale for about $27 at the moment. And it's a full checklist that you just work through methodically. And if you follow that checklist, you end up building yourself out of the business through the 3 stages, which I'm not going to go into today because we're staying with the 4 hats. But by following that, you end up with a business that runs way more passively or completely passively from you. Choice is yours about whether you want to work or not. So get that. That's worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not more, that particular IP for $27. It's taken... That's what I got from my mentors, what we developed. It's been used in many of Australia's major franchise organisations for their top franchise owners so that they can build multiple businesses. Of course, then they buy more franchise licenses. This has been used time and time again. So $27, check it out. It's called the Fire Yourself Blueprint and Masterclass. It's in the link below on YouTube or up there on Facebook groups. Okay, so the CEO, again, is just interested in strategy. It can separate and understand that this business must be built separately from me. So your CEO thinks about that. That's the CEO hat. The operator doesn't think about that because the operator only thinks in terms of doing. There's a really other important element to define here, that when you are in CEO, you understand your job is to think. Just think and improve your thinking, improve your business intelligence. It is the priority. So the CEO knows that business success comes from brains, or to be more careful in my languaging, to develop business intelligence and know-how and mastery, where the operator, as I said before, isn't so interested in that. The operator and the creator usually come from the skill base that you're selling, whether that's watchmaking, widgets, the widget that you develop, the product that you fell in love with and sell. That's doing, but that's product based. That's expertise that you're trained in, the love of. And it's great to have that, but without having the CEO element, you're going to be in all sorts of trouble. So the final hat is the investor hat. So what do we got? We've got operator or technician. I use those 2 words for that doing expertise role. We've got creator, which often works alongside the operator, excited about what you can create and build and give to others. The CEO, which has no interest in what you know technically as an operator. It's just interested in building a business that runs independently of you, and is a strategist, uses intellect, understands people from the perspective of recruitment. And the final one is the investor hat. Now, the investor hat, all the investor hat does is, where's the money? How much return am I going to get, and when am I going to get it? How much return am I going to get, and when am I going to get it? Now, you can start to see, again, from an internal psychology perspective, if you've got these 4 parts of you, and most people have 2, operator, creator, and the investor and CEO often have to be developed in business for the reasons I've already outlined. Most people come into business because they're passionate about the thing. So the investor and CEO are just interested in building business, and the operator and creator are interested in doing. So there's internal conflicts here, of course. So many of you will recognize that you've actually been in your operator and creator, and you love what you're doing, and you might go to a financial planner or an accountant, and they're going, well, you're not making enough money. And you sort of go, oh, yeah, because there's this unconscious bias to just to be doing it because you enjoy it, where if you were with the CEO and the investor, which is what happens when you sit with the accountant or financial planner, because they're usually strong in those areas, they're sort of looking at you going, wow, this is not making enough. So it's the investor and the CEO, just look at it from the business result and the investor from the financial result, and the investor is usually informing the CEO. So an investor has a skill set around understanding numbers, has business planning from a cash flow and financial management perspective expertise within the business. Now, get to some really important information in the sense of, well, what do you do with this information? First of all, where are you weak and where are you strong? That's the first thing you need to do. Are you weak in investor? Are you weak in CEO? Are you weak in creator and operator? Or where are you strong? So you can self-analyze yourself and start to see the price that you pay for not being strong in these particular areas. By the way, and I've actually never worked with this, but if you work with someone that's really strong, an investor, I'm actually thinking one person, investor and CEO, who's not good an operator, doesn't know enough about the technicality of the skill set required for the work, the job, the widget, well, they'll suffer as well, okay? But you will suffer when you don't have these four hats. So if you don't have these four hats all strong, which they need to be, there's some other things that you can do, and therefore they don't need to be. But if you, right, if you don't have them yourself, you must have outside expertise that comes in. Right now, I'm thinking about two clients that I have, and when I start to talk about investor or from my investor or my CEO hat, they start to fall asleep because they just want to get back to the operator and the creator. It's like, oh my God, do I have to hear about strategy and money, right? It's like, well, if you're in business, you should. So you probably get where I'm going here. Now, if they're not willing to embrace it, they've got to have accountability in their business from people that are strong in these areas that keep reminding you of what needs to be done. And typically that means that you might have to address conflict issues, because I've met plenty of people that are in operator and creator hats that unconsciously they don't want anything to do with the accountant. They don't want anything to do with the financial planner. So they're not going to develop those parts within themselves, right? They're not that interested in strategy. So they don't want to bring people around them that remind them where they're weak. So it's important. I want people to help me see where I'm weak. If I can find out where I'm weak, then I can improve that area. So again, just in closing, wherever you're weak, and if you don't want to develop mastery in that area, you have to employ someone or have a contractor that keeps you strong and accountable in areas that you're weak. So those four hats are super important. If you don't have each of those hats, you will never get out of the day-to-day operations, and you will never build a business that runs more passively, and you will never build a business that you can sell for a lot of money. Those four hats are an absolute requirement within your business, whether you have them or they make up, or that it's made up through your team, your leadership team. Now, I hope that helps. If you've got any questions, let me know. Shoot me through an email, message me, and I will answer questions in the show where possible. And of course, I talked about a couple of things. The first one is there is a Fire Yourself blueprint up there if you're watching this on Facebook, first post usually, and down there on YouTube. And it's $27, and it's an absolute step-by-step system to exit the day-to-day operations, get off the hamster wheel of being a part of the processes of money making in your business, to working on your business in conductor stage, right through to how to prepare the business for sale or passive ownership, where you're just earning income and you've got a leadership team in place running it. It will be the best $27 you've ever spent. And if you want any personal assistance, just book with us. Oftentimes we're booked out, but if you can and there's a space, get in. It will really help you. It's more personal. We can start to see your blocks, and you will have them. Building a business to run more passively from you is not just a technical game. It's how you think, what you believe. And as I said before, most of us have been brought up to be resources in other people's money-making games. That's the education system. I personally have worked for very, very wealthy, multiple generational family wealth, and they are trained to be completely different. They're trained to control resources. By the way, isn't that interesting? It's kind of symbiotic. So if you come through, brought up in very wealthy families, I'm not talking, you know, what we might call the professional class, doctors and lawyers and things like that. I'm talking about super wealthy, generationally wealthy investors and business owners. They teach their children to not be a resource, but to control resources. And our education system, for the most part, which is set up for the working, middle and professional classes, it teaches people to be resources. Rather symbiotic. I'm not saying there's anything bad about that per se. Those in power always need people to do what they need done. So that's just how the game works. I suppose the key essence here is learn about all the games that are played and all the ways that people think and behave differently in business, and adjust your thinking and behaviour to join those that know how to build income-producing assets separate from their input. Thanks, everyone. Hope you enjoyed the show. Catch you.